along the lines of, it's the club's fighting back because this whole list of players didn't get the moves that they were after. But I think their clubs really were just milking the environment we found ourselves in. Transfer fees had spiraled, and it gave some power back to the clubs to demand extortionately high fees, and in effect play a game of chicken with the potential buying club. And in particular cases, the host club, as it were, managed to retain their player. Mm-hmm. The Coutinho saga, like Tim said, I would have loved for him to have left because he makes Liverpool stronger. But you have to wonder about Liverpool's sanity at the end of the day. £138 million or whatever the latest bid was for Coutinho. You take the money, and as much as that would pain me to lose a Spurs player that I thought the world of, there comes a point where the money gets silly and you have to accept it. And again, going back to this, I tweeted something else out at the time, and I said it reminded me of when Spurs sold Chris Waddle back in 87, whatever it was. The money got so silly, apparently, this is what Terry Venables said at the time, that when it got to $4.5 million, we just had to sell. So
isn't that something?
Yeah, it just kind of shows you. And I think at some point, even today, the money will get so silly that a club will have to sell. And I'm flabbergasted that Liverpool didn't sell Coutinho. As much as I'd like to think that it was the clubs fighting back, and Mahrez, Coutinho, and all the others stayed, I think it was as much to do with the club win than the clubs winning.
Yeah, Tim, I have never. We joke a lot that Arsenal fans are completely obsessed with Tottenham. I have never seen so much social media banter going around that Aurier grew up an Arsenal fan and yada yada yada. And obviously, when you look back at the Bales and the Defoes and Bergkamps of the world that grew up Spurs fans and ended up at Arsenal or vice versa, it doesn't really matter in the big play of things. But it seems like, again, we're not going to get into other clubs, but they are having their own internal struggles 3 years into the new Premier League season. We even saw, like, on College Game Day, before all the college football games, there were Wenger out signs in the college crowds. It's hysterical to me that, along with this day of social media, that banter being what it is, that things like this creep into the discussion at mammoth proportions, it seems like. Did you see the same thing?
Yeah, I saw it, and I mean, look,
it's unreal.
Their future is bleak. They're shit now. Players who may have grown up supporting them, I think it's clear that they don't want to go there because they don't see a future with that club.
Yeah. They are shit, that's why.
Very good, Vass. It's brilliant.
They're in turmoil, Ken. They're in turmoil.
They are in turmoil.
All their existing players are allowing their contracts to run down so they can get out of Dodge. There's nothing really happening. The manager's under pressure already, and all Arsenal fans have got to hit us with is, that player you just signed used to support Arsenal. Well, guess what, guys? He's our player.
Yeah.
Laugh away.
And when he pulls that shirt on, you just wait and see what happens when we visit the Emirates here soon.
Exactly.
Barkley, the report was that he was having a Chelsea medical, got up halfway through the medical, and left. Went back to Merseyside.
So that's actually false.
That is what I was just getting ready to allude to.
Yeah. Okay. So, you break the news, Kenny.
No, he is saying that he was never a part of anybody's medical research team, getting ready to transfer anywhere. That was completely false. But Tim, expound, please.
I mean, yeah, he came out and said that he wants to make his decision when he's fully fit on what to do for his future, and that he didn't undergo a medical with any team. Now, who knows? I mean, was he at their facility? I don't know. Supposedly he was in London, but as far as actually undergoing a medical, he has adamantly denied having done so and wants to wait until January to make his decision.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, I mean, it's more likely that he can come to us in January if he hasn't signed and then is left with 6 months on his contract. Or if you let the window pass and he refuses to sign with anyone, we can get him for free.
Yeah, and listen, footballers aren't stupid. I mean, we've alluded to the fact that they're maybe not the brightest bunch in the world and make some pretty bonehead moves throughout their, especially the young parts of their career. But when you have a Llorente who was tied to Conte at Juventus and won trophies with him there, saying no, I'm not going, and it's kind of a slap in the face, and you know, there were reports out there that Tottenham had hijacked Chelsea's move. Well, turnabout's fair play, you know, hashtag Willian. And then you have Aurier coming to Spurs, and you have other teams that are having players, you know, turned down, whether it's Barkley to Chelsea, reportedly, so that he can come to Tottenham in January, because they, you know, are really enjoying seeing the kind of football we play, how we are building a squad. You just can't go out and buy everything. Will it get you a championship? Perhaps. Will it get you a trophy here and there? Perhaps. But in the long run, it absolutely blows me away that when people slate Daniel Levy and he says, when you look at these transfer fees and you see how teams are trying to build themselves out with just money over the long haul, it's not sustainable. In Vass, are we starting to see that with some of these clubs, it is simply not sustainable for them to go out, buy the Alexis's, buy the Ozils, buy the, you know, the Hazards and the Coutinhos of the world, and continue to sustain what it is that they're trying to do as a football club?
As much as I hate to them up again, our neighbours down the road seem to be a case in point at the moment. The wage bill that they're running is making it extremely difficult for them to make moves on players at the moment. And it's not a question of transfer fees per se, but they need to get people off the wage bill in order to make some cap room, I suppose, to bring new players in. And it is going to be unsustainable for clubs. As much as Levy is maligned about this, he's probably got a point. You can criticise Levy for a lot of things. One thing you can't criticise him for is being an astute businessman. And, you know, you have to see where he's coming from. And I think a lot more clubs will start feeling the pinch, as it were.
Yeah. The window that was certainly something that Spurs fans will hopefully look back on as very successful. I think we have 2, if not 3, really good players for the future. One that could immediately make an impact in Llorente. And, you know, Gazzaniga, is he the future of Tottenham at that position? We'll find out. You know, there could be another purchase moving along. Let's move along real quickly. Champions League schedule was released before we get into Everton. Borussia Dortmund at Wembley, Apoel at GVSP Stadium in Cyprus, and Real Madrid at the Santiago Bernabeu are the first 3. Then we kind of reversed that schedule a little bit. Real Madrid at Wembley in early November, Borussia Dortmund at Signal Iduna Park in November, and Apoel to round things out in December. But those first 3 matches, and the last one being at the Santiago Bernabeu, of those 3, as a reminder, Dele Alli misses those matches because of the red card that he incurred against Ghent last year in the Europa League, where we were, you know, systematically bounced out of that tournament. Vass, we've kind of alluded to that, and we've seen things on social media, that Dele doesn't look too troubling or too happy at this point. It's a little bit troubling to some Spurs fans. Do you think that maybe it's tied to this fact that as Champions League is getting very close for us, that he's realizing that mistake that he made last year is going to cost him an appearance at the Santiago Bernabéu?
If it's only that's bothering him at the moment, Ken, then I'll be quite content. I don't know whether it's more deep-rooted. He doesn't look happy with his game at the minute. He seems to be a bit grumpy around the pitch. His celebrations have been somewhat muted. Maybe it's just me being a little bit paranoid as a Spurs fan, but recent changes with management company and the whole kind of thing that surrounded Walker's departure, and maybe wind of some interest from a Barcelona or someone like that. I don't know if that's at play here that's causing him, or maybe I'm just reading too much into it. I really don't know. But missing his league games will, at the very least, prove to him what a stupid boy he was night against Ghent, and he cannot, at his level, afford to have any more of those evenings. I think he's done well to sort of curb his temperament somewhat. He was getting some harsh treatment in the opening game against Newcastle, and he sort of rode through that quite well. It's sad that we're going to miss him. I think we'll be able to, well, as much as we can, cope without him. It would have been ideal if he could have been available for us, but this is football, and you can't go around kicking people on the football pitch because you're going to end up missing games. What's happened to Dele right now?
Yeah. And I guess it does say that, hey, listen, you look at Borussia Dortmund, they just sold Dele, arguably their best player. So they'll also be missing that person, but they'll be missing him for the entire tournament. They'll have to figure out a way to cope, and as will Tottenham. Tim, any thoughts on Dele and his kind of early season, bad attitude fest, I guess, if you will, that he's going through right now?
No, not really. I mean, I think we're just trying to read too much into it. If we would have bagged some points from those last games, if we would have won against Burnley, I don't think this would be a discussion.
Yeah.
Probably right.
I think you're totally right too. Let's switch gears, move on to Everton at Goodison Park this weekend. God, I cannot. I like the international break because I do like watching some of these teams play each other, but I cannot stand missing Premier League football because of that. So I'm really looking forward to this. Before we get into predictions and quickly previewing that match, Tim, you're master of the macabre injury update. I know that there are quite a few on here. Lay it on me.
There are long-term injuries. Yannick Bolasie still out from December, knee injury. Seamus Coleman broke his leg in March, still out. Funes Mori had knee surgery in July, so he's still out. Those are known. Ross Barkley, once again, denied taking any medicals and said it was due to his injury. He wants to make a decision when fully fit. So I think it's safe to assume he's out. And even if he weren't injured, given the links with us and the contract situation, I'd be surprised if they even put him on the pitch against us. So I think those four players you can assume are out.
Okay.
Now, you have Jordan Pickford, who picked up a slight muscle injury. He reported for England duty after Everton and the England medical staff talked. He returned, didn't train with them. So, I mean, that's up in the air, but I think he'll be available. Same thing with James McCarthy. They've said beforehand that he'll be available after the international break. So those two I think you can look at being available. Davy Clausen also picked up a foot injury, but once again, they've said he'll be available. So those are three to look at. Now, the one player that I'm not too sure about that they haven't necessarily said will be available after the international break is Mason Holgate, 20-year-old who started at right wing back for them. And Everton's really been pushing up the right wings with him and Rooney. So that's one to take a look at because he was with the England U21s and he withdrew from it with an ankle injury. Now they're saying it's minor, but I'm not sure really what's going on with him. So that's probably the only one to really look at. I think the other three in Pickford, McCarthy, and Clausen will be back and ready after the international break because they've already said they will.
Okay.
That's what we're looking at for Everton. I can give you a quick preview on Dortmund if you want to look ahead to that one.
Sure. Let's do it.
So they actually have some big-name players that are out and will definitely be out. Marco Reus is not expected back until January. He's out. Andre Schurrle